Hi guys! Today I want to put to the test a full face of NYX cosmetics. I really feel like NYX has stepped it up lately. In the last couple of years, they have really leveled up. I used to not really pay much attention to NYX for some reason, but now so many of my favorite products are from NYX. So I wanted to see how well does a full face of NYX hold up throughout the day. So for my primer step, I'm going to be using the NYX Blur Screen SPF 30 primer. Really, this is the only kind of priming product that I will use, is something that also has SPF in it. So I'm going to go in with my usual 2 fingers. The sun has actually already gone down, so I don't really have a need for sunscreen right now, but I think it'll be fun to test it as a primer as well. I have used this on just like one half of my face before, and I did like it. I felt like my makeup held up really well, and it still looked nice and hydrated by the end of the day. Normally for a wear test, I would put this on just one half of my face, but I'm also going to be testing a setting spray, and I'm thinking that's what I want to put on one half of my face. I don't want to complicate it too much. I will say I was almost expecting this to be clear, kind of like the Supergoop Unseen sunscreen or the e.l.f. Invisible sunscreen. Those kind of like clear sunscreens that are meant to sort of be blurring and pore filling as well. That's what I expected this to be like, but as you saw, it is completely white, and I don't get a very matte finish from it. I would say I look pretty hydrated. I don't look incredibly dewy or greasy at all, but it definitely gives a little bit of a hydrated look to the skin. And the skincare I have underneath, which I put on this morning, I have on the Ilia Face Base Milk and the Kapari Ceramide Face Cream. So that is all I have underneath. Then we are really getting some good sun protection today because my base product also has SPF in it. This is the new NYX Buttermelt Glaze Soft Glow Skin Tint, which has SPF 30, and I chose the lightest shade, 01 Whipped Butta. I forgot to say, but really, except for the mascara and the lip product I'm using today, none of this is a first impression. Most of these things I've used at least 3 times by now, and I actually really like this product. It's definitely, not something that you're going to get a ton of coverage from, but my favorite way to apply it is with my fingers, and then I'll just tap over it with a sponge. I expected this to have a scent kind of like the Buttermelt bronzer, but I don't smell anything. But then again, I can't tell if I'm smelling the Blur Screen still. The Blur Screen does sort of have like a tropical scent. Okay, so I've got it just kind of spread around on my face. It's like mostly blended in at this point, but I will go ahead and just tap over that with a damp sponge. This is the Makeup Revolution one that came in their advent calendar. And applying it this way with my fingers first and then just lightly tapping over it with a sponge, I feel like I'm able to get better coverage than if I were to just blend it out with a sponge. It is definitely a skin tint, like it says. Like, it's not going to give you much more than light coverage, but definitely just evens out the skin tone. And I've really been in the market for a good base product that contains SPF, and I really do feel like this has filled that spot in my collection that was missing. So yeah, happy to have found something from the drugstore. With a name like Buttermelt Glaze, I was expecting this to have a very dewy, like glazed donut kind of finish on the skin, but it's really more skin-like than anything. I don't find it overly dewy, a little bit hydrating, so it feels nice on my dry skin, but doesn't have any sort of crazy dewy finish. And then for my under eye combo, these are 2 of my favorite things that NYX makes. The NYX Bare With Me Concealer Serum and the Pro Fix Stick in pink. This is my absolute favorite under eye combo. The Bare With Me Concealer Serum, it does have a pump, and just a heads up, if you buy this, if you press the pump all the way down, you're going to get way too much if you're just using it as an under eye concealer, so I will usually just press it like maybe a quarter of the way down, maybe. I just kind of barely tap it, and that's about how much I get. Maybe just a tiny bit more than that, actually. Yeah. And then I spread that between my 2 ring fingers and tap it. This is my favorite concealer brush. It's the BK Beauty A506. This concealer I love because it is just the most natural looking concealer I've ever found. It's not going to give you full coverage, but it's just enough coverage to camouflage those under eye circles a little bit. And then I'll top it with this color corrector, which is in the shade Pink. The color corrector, as you saw, I just dot it on, and then I like to blend it out with my finger. I feel like the warmth of my finger is the perfect thing to just meld it in with my skin. It blends out so quickly. And the thing I love the most about this color corrector is that it has a matte finish. It almost kind of blurs the under eyes a little bit, which is my absolute favorite. I don't love a super luminous or dewy under eye. For my contour and highlighter, I'm going to be using the Wonderstick from NYX in the shade Fair. If you're into contouring, this is such a great contour stick. It blends well even if you apply it straight to the skin. Blends very quickly, and I find that this has great staying power too. And you also don't have to blend it like immediately. You have a little bit of time. Like if it sits on your skin for 30 seconds, you'll still be able to blend it out. Yeah, just a really easy contour. I just love this shade as well. It's very natural. It's not too dark on my skin tone. Perfectly cool toned without being like too gray either. And then on the other end, we have a highlighter, and this is a really pretty kind of champagne highlight. And again, I'm just gonna go straight in with that. I'll even put some on the tip of my nose. And then I just blend that out with a finger. Then one of my favorite blushes of all time is this NYX Sweet Cheeks Soft Cheek Tint Blush Mousse in the shade Nude Tude. This is the perfect kind of brownish blush. It's kind of a spicy rose color. I love this shade. It's like a brick rose almost. And as you can see, this is another product that you can apply directly to the skin, and it spreads so easily. Doesn't get patchy, doesn't like mess up the foundation underneath. I think I may have applied a little bit too much, but not to worry. We can fix it. The nice thing about this blush is you can just kind of keep blending it until it tones itself down a little bit. Yeah, very blushy look, kind of going with like that boyfriend blush where I'm taking it a little bit farther down my cheek, but I actually think that's kind of a fun look, especially for the winter. We'll take my sponge though and just kind of tap over the edges of that just so that it doesn't look too crazy. But I love that shade so much. It is such a unique shade for a blush. Just like a spicy brownish rose kind of color. So for powder, I had never tried a NYX powder that I can think of. They have only a couple of different powder options, but I decided to try the Can't Stop, Won't Stop mattifying powder from them. I ended up getting the shade Fair, which I think again is the lightest shade. And I'm going to try using this on both my under eyes and my entire face today. Normally I use like a loose powder on my under eyes or like my Tower 28 pink powder, but I'm going to try it on the under eyes. And this right here is why I love this concealer and corrector combo so much, is it's been several minutes since I applied these. Normally with most concealers, I would have a significant amount of creasing by now, but let me show you up close. So I haven't set my under eyes yet. I haven't touched them since I applied those products like 5 to 10 minutes ago, and that is all the creasing I have, just a tiny bit. It is far less than I would get with most other concealers on the market. So I will just lightly tap that crease out with my finger and then go in with some powder. Let's see how this looks. I don't know why I expected this powder to look really dry and heavy. I don't know why I expected that. I think it's because I know they make it, NYX makes a Can't Stop, Won't Stop liquid foundation that's supposed to be like really full coverage. Sounds like something, you know, I probably wouldn't like. But that actually looks really nice on the under eyes. I don't see it emphasizing any dryness. Doesn't look crepey, really just looks very smooth. So I'm impressed. I'm also going to use this to set the rest of my face. Setting that blush a little bit, which is helping to tone it down, but also just set it into place. Just pretty much applied that all over in a really light layer. And I think it looks great. I think it looks very smooth. It has a little bit of a blurring quality to it, but doesn't look heavy or powdery. And because I have it, I also want to use the Buttermelt bronzer. I have the shade Butta. I've been struggling with this product a little bit, but I wanted to talk about it because when I first got this, obviously I got it to use as a bronzer, which is how it's meant to be used, but I found that I actually didn't love it as a bronzer. I felt like it was a little bit too dark, too pigmented, so I tried using it as a blush because it has just like the slightest little rosy tone you can kind of see there, and I loved it as a blush, but I've found that I have to be so careful with the way I apply it as blush because if I over apply, it looks too dark in the way that a highlighter that's too dark looks. You know how they kind of create this weird shadow on your skin? This will do that to my skin, and this is the lightest shade that this comes in. So I haven't tried it with this brush yet, but this is the Kaleidos Duo Fiber Contour Brush. The bristles are not very dense. So I just want to kind of try to use this as like a bronzer, like a blush topper. I just tapped my brush in there once and I'm tapping off the excess as well. Let's see if I can get just a nice natural sort of rosy bronze with this. This is the kind of thing that like a tiny bit goes a long way. You really don't need much. And I'm kind of someone who prefers the opposite with bronzers and blushes. Like I want something where I don't have to worry about going overboard. So I would say if that's you, I know these bronzers have gotten a lot of hype, but I don't necessarily think they would be for everyone. Especially if you're very fair or if you're someone who likes a super subtle look. But you can see this is just kind of, actually I think it's working well with this brush. So yeah, if you have a brush like this, that's probably what I would recommend using, just something a little bit more wispy rather than dense. So I do have an eye primer from NYX that I've been testing. This is the Ultimate Shadow and Liner Primer. So far, so good with this one. I don't think I've had any creasing with it yet. This one, as you can see, it doesn't have like a ton of coverage. I would say maybe it just evened out my skin slightly, but I wouldn't say it has like a lot of coverage either. For my brows, I actually have 3 different brow gel or brow glue type products from NYX, all of which again will be included in my brow glue showdown that's also coming up. I have the brow glue in Taupe, the Thick It Stick It Brow Mascara in Cool Blonde, and the Control Freak Clear Brow Gel. I would say that my favorite of these at the moment is actually the brow glue, not so into these other two. So I'm going to use the brow glue today. I'm not in love with any of these, to be honest. I don't think NYX makes my favorite like brow, like strong hold brow gel, because I like something with a really strong hold. But the brow glue gets me kind of like the closest to where I want my brows, I would say. So I like this because it does have a little tint to it, so it just kind of helps fill in my brows ever so slightly. And then I like to press that down with, this is the e.l.f. Brow Lift Applicator. I do like to kind of brush my brows backwards first, just to get the hairs coated on both sides, and then I brush them like the right way. Again, this doesn't like, I like a really laminated effect with my brow glues, and this, it doesn't like completely glue my brows to my skin for 12 plus hours, you know? But it at least gives them some pretty solid hold. And then once that's dry, I'm going to fill in my brows with the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Pen in Taupe. And I don't necessarily fill in the entire brow with this, I kind of just focus on any areas that look a little bit sparse. I just use it to kind of add a little bit more structure and symmetry to my brows. Definitely a brow look that I'm happy with, even though that glue is not my favorite of all time. The Thick It Stick It has a little bit more pigment, and it has these fibers to it. I used to like this more. The first tube of this that I had, I swear, was like stickier and would actually hold my brows better. This does not hold my brows all day long, and then neither does the Control Freak. You would think, like, it sounds like something that would have a really strong hold. This has like no hold. I don't recommend it, unless you just want something with really light hold. So now for my eyeshadow, this I'm so excited to play with. It's the NYX Ultimate Vintage Jean Baby palette. They have a few different colors of this same looking palette. They have like a couple really colorful ones, and there's also a neutral one. I decided to go with this one because it has quite a few neutral shades in it, but then also some really fun pops of blue. So I'm going to start out with this shade in the crease. It's this light beige color. I'm actually going to take a little bit of this really light blue. I love this kind of color. It's like a sky blue. And I'm going to add a little bit of that to my crease as well. It's kind of ending up looking more gray mixed with that beige color. But the blue is definitely still coming through. I like that. Then I'm going to take some of this blue. It's a little bit deeper. That is like a true denim blue. Taking that on a shader brush, and I'm just going to pack that in the outer corner of my eye. I want to see how well these blues perform. It seems like blue is kind of one of those colors that's hard for brands to formulate, but this actually seems so far to be like I'm not having to build it up too much. So let me see now if I go in back to that smaller crease brush that I used for the light blue. I just use this to blend that medium blue. And really what I'm trying to see here is, does it blend away? So far it doesn't seem to be blending away. I might just take a little bit more of this to add on there, but that's kind of fun. Taking some of it down below as well. This was the category of NYX makeup that I was most curious about as eyeshadow, because I don't think I have ever tried a powder eyeshadow from NYX. I think the only eyeshadow product I've ever tried was like their jumbo pencil, but I've never tried one of their like palettes or powder shadows. So I just thought these palettes looked so fun. Next thing I'm going to do, I actually want to take some of this shade. It's like a taupe shimmer. Ooh, that's really intense. I'm going to tap that. I might have enough for both eyes here. I'm tapping that in the center of my lid, overlapping it with the blue, but I'm not taking it all the way out to the outer corner. Mainly focusing it on the center here. And then on the inner part of my lid, I'm going to take some of this silver, and that I'm placing in like the inner third of my lid. and overlapping it with the taupe. Back to that crease brush, I'm just blending a little bit more. I think this look is coming together quite nicely. These shimmers are beautiful. Hey Heidi, what's up? I also want to take some of this lightest shimmer, of course, in my inner corner. That is such a pretty shade as well. Yeah, these shimmers are really intense, like if you want them to be, wow. And then last thing, this palette has a matte white in it here, and I actually like using that just softly on the brow bone to kind of clean everything up, add a little bit of a highlight there. I don't use much of it, but just a teeny tiny bit. I actually really like the way that look turned out. Then for my eyeliner, I have something old and something new that I want to use. So this has been a favorite for a long time, the Epic Wear Liner Stick. This is in the shade Periwinkle Pop, which I think will be perfect. I'm actually going to apply this to my lower waterline. Nothing is going to last 100% in the waterline, of course, but this I feel like lasts better than most things I've tried. There's that. I actually do want to dip back into the palette. I'm going to take a little bit more of this beige shade and actually smudge that underneath the eye. Actually, I'm going to mix that with this slightly darker brown down here. So I've got that blue in the waterline and then this kind of smudged below it. And then the second eyeliner I want to use on the top. And this is the NYX Epic Smoke Liner in the shade Nude Haze. I've really been enjoying this. So this is a retractable liner. And as you can see, the tip has a really unique shape. It's like shaped like a diamond. It makes it really easy to do a wing. So I'll kind of just draw this on sort of messily, but I will just kind of get a wing started, and then I'll take a liner brush and sharpen the wing just a little bit. And then this liner actually has a brush. It's kind of shaped like a toothbrush or something. And that is also meant to just help smoke it out a little bit. I love this color. It's a light brown, almost more of like a taupey brown. A lot of times I don't want like a really dark eyeliner, and this is perfect for a little bit of a softer look that still gives some really nice definition. I'm gonna go ahead and curl my eyelashes. I'm also gonna be trying out a NYX mascara. I think this is the first NYX mascara I've ever tried. It is their Worth the Hype waterproof mascara. I have so many issues with mascaras smudging and flaking on me that I've recently decided to just stop buying anything other than tubing mascaras. Now, of course, this isn't a tubing mascara, but it is waterproof. And I'm curious to see, I haven't tried a waterproof mascara in years, but I'm curious to see how difficult this is to remove. If I can remove this with my regular cleansing oil, then I'll be very happy. This will be a good way to experiment with a waterproof mascara and also be able to include a NYX mascara in this video. So, okay, so far it's looking very subtle, but let's keep going. So this is supposed to be volumizing and lengthening. I definitely think of all categories of makeup, NYX isn't that well known for mascara. I don't feel like any of their mascaras are like super hyped up or anything. It's kind of hard to judge a mascara on the first use because sometimes the first time you use them they're a little underwhelming, but as the formula dries out just a tiny bit, they start to look a little bit more like impressive on the lashes. I would say right now I'm not getting a very dramatic look, but I like the length that I was able to build up, and I'm happy with the way my lashes look. Really, I don't mind if a mascara is more natural looking as long as it doesn't smudge or flake and that it also is not super difficult to remove at night. I'm happy. I also want to try a setting spray today, and I think I am going to try this on just one half of my face so we can see if there's a difference. This is somewhat new from NYX. It's the Face Glue setting spray. I think I'm going to try this on just this half of my face, so just my right half, or I guess your left. And then on my lips. This is actually another thing I haven't tried yet. I've swatched it, but I haven't put it on my lips. Based on my swatch of it, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this, but this is the new NYX Lip IV Hydrating Gloss Serum. I think this is also supposed to have sort of a stain to it. I got the shade Caramel Drip, and then I also got their Duck Plump Plumping Lip Liner in the shade Subtle Touch. I was curious to try their Duck Plump lip oil, but I've heard that that is like one of the most painful lip plumpers, so I thought I would just try out the lip liner for now instead. I have used this a few times. I was worried it was going to be really painful, but so far I haven't had any like discomfort with it. I guess it feels a little bit tingly, but as I applied I don't feel anything, but the longer I have it on it feels like a little bit tingly sometimes, but it's hardly noticeable. So this is also retractable, and it does have kind of like a teardrop shape almost, which I do like for filling in the lips. I feel like it makes it really quick. This goes on really smoothly, and I feel like to blend it all I have to do is kind of go like this, and it looks blended. As far as any sort of plumping, see, I do feel like a little bit of a warm sort of plumping sensation, but to me it's nothing painful. I don't know if I notice any actual plumping with it though. I guess we can do kind of like a before and after, like before I applied it and what it looks like now. It's hard to tell if it's really actually plumping them up. So then the Lip IV Hydrating Gloss Serum. The reason I said I don't know if I'm going to love this is because I do think this has some of that like pH adjusting hot pink color to it. So I like the color as it first goes on. I'm actually just going to blend that out with my finger. It looks like a nice kind of warm caramely nude, but you can see the applicator is kind of like dyed that pink color. That's always like the dead giveaway that something has that pH adjusting like coloring in it that makes it hot pink. Going back to that face glue setting spray now that it's dried, you can kind of see that it has added just a tiny bit of glow to my skin. Here it looks a little more matte still. Here, there's a little bit of glow added back. But again, I wouldn't say that this is like a very dewy setting spray. I don't think that's what it's meant to be either. So this Lip IV Hydrating Gloss Serum, I swatched it here on my hand. It's been on there for probably a minute or so. When I wipe it off, it does leave behind that kind of hot pink color you can see, which I really hate that color, to be honest. But right now, I'm happy with the color that it is on my lips. I'm just curious to see how it looks as it fades and maybe as that sort of caramel nude color fades off. So we'll see. I'll check in just at the end of the night to let you know how everything wore. But so far, everything performed quite well. I wasn't disappointed in any of these products. This palette especially, I'm very excited to keep playing with. But I'll see you guys when I check in. So we're about 7 to 8 hours into this makeup look, and I would say for the most part, things held up pretty well. One thing I'm noticing right off the bat is that the side without the setting spray is looking a little bit more shiny, kind of in this zone. This is where I tend to get shiny. And it's not that the setting spray side looks matte. There is a little bit of shine showing up right here, but it's not quite as much. I do feel like the skin tint definitely is a little broken apart in the areas where it normally kind of settles into my smile lines here. And I also feel like it looks a little bit dry in the crevice of my nose right here. A little bit more so on the non-setting spray side. It looks simultaneously more oily and more dry than the side with setting spray. You can also definitely see where my glasses rubbed off my foundation, but that's very normal. My under eyes look really nice and fresh still. Stayed in place on both sides pretty much equally. Let me know if you see a difference, if one side looks like it held up better than the other. My brows did fall a little bit. You can see the hairs falling here. What I'm really happy about though is that the eyeshadows did not crease. So that eyeshadow primer worked really well on both the setting spray and the non-setting spray side. That blue liner you can see, I feel like the effect is very much still there. Some of it definitely did wear away. I would say it's about 50% still in place, but from any sort of distance, I think it looks very much blue there in the waterline. So I'm really pleased with that. The Epic Smoke Liner in Nude Haze also stayed in place well, didn't seem to fade at all. My mascara actually did flake the tiniest bit. Only on this side I'm seeing it. Actually no, I'm seeing tiny little bits under this eye as well. Now those actually may be eyeshadow fallout actually. But on this side here, I do have some tiny specks of what I think is mascara. So I'm kind of surprised that a waterproof mascara would be flaking, unless those are just little eyeshadow specks. So I'll keep testing that. I am very curious to see if this mascara is easy enough to remove with just a cleansing oil. I was really pleased that the lip didn't turn hot pink. It actually kind of stayed a nice, I do feel like it made my lips a little bit pink, but it didn't give them that hot pink stain. It was, if anything, it's just a really subtle pink stain that it left behind, but I really liked the way that wore. I didn't reapply the lip liner or lip ivy at all, so I just let it fade, and I felt like it faded in a really nice, even way. It didn't go patchy or look weird or dry at all, so I was really happy with the way everything wore, honestly. So that's my full face of NYX. I really, like I said, I am so impressed with NYX. I think they are one of the best drugstore brands right now. But I really was so impressed by, honestly, every part of this makeup look. There were no duds in this full face. So that tells me that NYX really does have a strong product in every category. And yeah, they just have really impressed me over the last few years. I think they have some amazing products. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, maybe share the video with a friend if you think somebody might find it helpful. And I hope all of you have an amazing rest of your day. I'll talk to you very soon in my next video. Bye!